Okay, Lynn, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lateif?
Here.
Mr. Dolman?
Here.
Ms. Pacheco?
Here.
Mr. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Here.
Chairperson Hoke.
Here. I have in front of me the 2025 calendar. Is that for the purposes of approving the meetings?
Nope, just looking. We'll approve them next month.
Okay. All right, so the calendar is just for everybody to take a look at to make sure their availability on the suggested zoning board night. Mr. Kenny, we call the only matter on the agenda this evening.
Appeal by Ingalls and Associates LLP, agent for variances from provisions of Niskuna Code Schedule IC Part 1, R2 District Schedule of Supplementary Regulations, Town of Niskuna, as they apply to the property at 1356 Balltown Road, Niskuna, New York, located in the R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District, for an application for a major subdivision of 14 townhomes at the 5.3 acre property. Variance requests include the need for front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, lot widths, and lot area minimums. Schedule IC Part 1 lists the front yard setback of lots to be 30 feet. One lot has a front yard setback of less. Because of lots will be developed as side-by-side townhouses, 14 lots will need a variance for the side yard setback on the common lot line. 11 lots do not meet the lot width requirements, 80 feet. 10 lots do not meet the minimum lot area, 9,000 square feet. A total of 36 area variances are required. 28 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
Okay, thank you. Before we begin this evening, let me procedurally lay out where we are with respect to this application. It has as many people on the board know, it has a long history. So I'd like to refresh everybody's recollection as well as advise people of the current posture of the matter. This matter comes back before us tonight as a result of a settlement of litigation that was pending over the last year and a half or more. The applicant came before this board previously with an 18 townhouse plan seeking 54 area variances. The board denied the request for all variances. The applicant appealed the board's decision, and the Schenectady County Supreme Court ruled in the applicant's favor and directed that the board grant the request for all 54 variances. The town then appealed the Schenectady County Supreme Court judge's decision. That appeal has been pending for quite some time. Recently, the parties reached a settlement agreement whereby the applicant agreed to reduce their project size down to 14 townhouses, which in turn reduced the number and size of the area variances sought dramatically. The town decided settlement would be the best given the uncertainty of the appeal, and that the project as currently proposed with 14 townhouses is a better project because it reduces the intensity of development on the parcel, making it more in line with the character of the neighborhood and alleviating some of the concerns discussed at the initial zoning board meeting with the 18 townhouse concept. The purpose of this meeting is to place all of this on the record for the purposes of full transparency to the members of the public and to discuss how the change in the proposal from 18 townhouses to 14 townhouses results in the balancing test factors tipping in favor of the applicant. With respect to this parcel, the board already held a public meeting on the application. The application and the applicant has agreed to reduce the project and area variances sought, in part based on that public hearing and the discussions held at that meeting. As the current proposal is a less intense concept than originally proposed, and because the decision is being reached to settle the litigation, a new public hearing is not required. We do recognize that a standard notice was sent to all adjacent residents informing them of this meeting and the revised variance is requested. In the interest of transparency, we will offer time for the public comment tonight, but please keep in mind the facts as I just laid them out. It is important to note that the granting of an area variances for the reduced proposal of 14 townhouses does not alleviate the applicant's need to obtain a final site plan approval from the planning board. The planning board has recommenced their review of the revised proposal, and it is working towards conditional final approval by the end of the year. they have a special meeting for the project scheduled for tomorrow, November 21st at 7 p.m. right here in this room for any member of the public who's interested in attending. Their next scheduled meeting and a likely public hearing on the project will be December 2nd, 2024. At this point, if the applicant would like to come forward and discuss the application, and more specifically, Mr. Caponera, why don't you discuss the concessions that were made by the applicant and how the current proposal differs from the original proposal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, my name is Victor Caponera. It seems like I've been seeing a lot of Laura lately. She seems to be at every meeting for every board. But I do want to put on the record a heartfelt thanks to members who work for this town, including Alana, who put in a tremendous amount of effort and time into this matter. And as you said, Mr. Chairman, this has been around for a number of years, as has Laura. She's worked very hard on this also to put what we have in front of us together tonight, as well as my client who own this property and have been seeking this. This has been a journey for them that started in 2017. However, to just cut to the start and not get into real detail, as most of you know, I think everyone was on the board back when I was here last, yes? Back in 2020.
I don't think everybody. Most people were here, but not
Well,
everybody.
either way, as we know, when I came in front of the board, we initially started with a 20 proposal, a 20 townhouse proposal. Planning board, after 5 or 6 months and 5 appearances over a 5-month period, had us reduce it to 18. We came back in front of this board. The board was not comfortable with that. And so since all of what's gone on and is articulated by you very clearly due to the court ruling by the Supreme Court judge and the pending litigation in the appellate division, we got together. When I say we, I mean myself, my client, Alana, your attorney, Laura, and others, and met and discussed the further reduction of this proposal to 14 townhomes, which was mentioned by one of the board members when I was here last in front of the zoning board, suggesting that it be reduced further. That was agreed upon. So now when you look at this proposal, you're looking at 14. As you recall, when I stated before, when we first started, there was over 100 area variances that were going to be required. Then ultimately, through multiple appearances in front of the planning board, it went down to 56. And then after we've looked at this now, we're down to 36. And quite frankly, the fact that the town's law, your zoning code, allows for the townhomes to be conjoined, meaning that they're together. When you look at that, there'd be no side yard setback. And there's no provision in the code, as many other jurisdictions do. When you look at this, what I see in most other municipalities are, it's called a cluster development. What is a cluster development? It's a development that shrinks the size of the lots so as to preserve green space. And really what I see here is it's a cluster type development. Bottom line is, if you look at the development, there's no side yard setbacks. Under your code, there's no provision for that with a conjoined. So there's 14 of these variances, 36, that require these side yard setbacks. So when you take that off of the equation, you're really looking at 22. And then when you look at the 22 that we're looking at, in my humble opinion, they're very de minimis. De minimis in a way when you, in the sense that you look at the lot sizes. And when Laura put this together, she very artfully explained the difference in the elimination of all of the other variances that we were looking for, and how the reductions that we made were substantial, and how the actual area variances that we're looking at are very de minimis, in my opinion. And essentially, that's where we're at this point. We have moved the location of the entrance on Balltown pursuant to discussions with Laura in her office and the planners and the planning department. But that's pretty much it, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I could get into another hour-long discussion, but we've really thoroughly and almost painfully went through this the last time I was here over a course of a few hours when we were here.
Mr. Cabanero, I appreciate your presentation. I think it would be helpful if I gave members of the board an opportunity to ask any questions that they have.
Absolutely.
So I open it up for questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was here. I was very supportive of the 14 townhouses, and it looks good out there. I have a couple questions, and those questions, I think we had some residents were concerned, and I think it's been solved in here. I just want to put it on the record, so if they watch in the video or they concerned still, I want them to know it's what's happening. So the concerns I have is the water, that we had somebody, we're talking about flooding, if you remember their basement.
Yes.
And all this. So if you could talk a little bit about the
David?
water solution that you're going to have for this property.
Absolutely.
Just, that's one of the questions. If
I'm going to bring His Eminence, Dave Engels, who's a professional engineer with Engels and Associates. He can
Yes,
answer
thank
that
you.
question.
I remember him very well. He did a good job back there.
Mr. Engels, if you could just state your name and
Sure.
address for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Dave Engels with Engels and Associates. We hate to admit it, but we've been working on this plan since 2017 in some form or another. This being our reduced version. Maybe if we can look at the. Yep, thank you. We have gone through stormwater review and stormwater calculations as required by the New York State DEC, as promulgated in their general permits as well as their 2024 New York State Stormwater Design Manual, which just came out over the summer. We have to control the stormwater, collect it. We need to attenuate it, meaning we cannot increase any flow from the site. So the site currently drains to the south toward the CVS. There's a culvert system that goes into the CVS closed drainage. That would be our primary analysis point, and we have made sure that we are not increasing any flow off of the property. As you can see on the map, we have a fairly large 1 acre stormwater parcel here. This is basically a dry basin. We're looking at putting in some wildflower mix for some diversity of plantings and habitat. This will have what we call a low flow orifice structure here, always keeping this dry. That will go into the system and then down in offsite into the existing culvert that's there for CVS. So that would be our quantity control. We also have filtration systems, namely a dry swale that picks up any of the impervious runoff from these homes here and this section of roadway. That filters and then dumps into this pond and then back out. Likewise, we have a bioretention area here, which picks up the northerly section of the impervious rooftops in this stub roadway here. And then we have one more dry swale down at the entrance. So we are addressing, per the DEC requirements, both water quality and water quantity. So actually I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there was a substantial reduction actually in terms of what the water was that goes off the site with this large holding area that we have.
So this plan, even if you were to build those 17 single houses, would have been perfect for it, correct? I mean, the water storm.
This probably is slightly reduced in terms of magnitude. Obviously, the 17 homes, those were bigger lots that came all the way through the site. I think actually there wouldn't be this large 1 acre open space parcel
Right.
that's one of the benefits of this reduction from the 18 to the 14.
Mhm.
We have about an acre between these two open space parcels. We have incorporated a multi-use trail that takes you from Van Antwerp out to Balltown Road. So there's a 5-foot asphalt trail that is open to bringing people through the site. And we have significant street tree plantings. So,
Since you mentioned that 1 acre, I'm just, again, this is to go on the record. I read it and I like it. It said it's going from 0.1 acre of green to 1 acre. Can you explain that a little bit, where this is happening?
before, a lot of the green space was in the stormwater management area. So now we have a separate 1 acre plus stormwater management area. Plus, we have this additional open space area combined with this other open space area at Balltown, totaling nearly an acre, or approximately an acre. That will have deed restrictions and remain forested and undisturbed.
Okay, very good.
As another benefit.
Two more questions and I'll be done. If you can mention, I know there was some concern back then, and I know we wore the mask back then when we met last time.
Oh, right.
There was a resident concerned about cutting some trees and so on. Is this gonna, on Bolton Road, those trees gonna remain there? And can you explain
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, there was what was there, 4 or 5 houses on Balltown? Yeah,
Yeah.
so there was 4 houses on the frontage here, plus one over here on
And
Van
one,
Antwerp.
and one you guys don't own. I think we talked about
Cor-
that last time, that next
Correct,
to CVS on Van Antwerp, there's 2 in there and you only own one of them and somebody
Cor-
else.
correct.
I remember a guy saying something about a dog or
Mhm.
somebody's coming out of the house or something.
Right.
And go ahead.
So we are doing a tree inventory of any of these trees here. I think there's some silver maples and other trees, mature trees that were in the front yards of these homes that show here that are no longer there. They were demoed. So tree preservation of any and all of these mature trees. There's no disturbance along the sidewalk here, so those will be preserved. Obviously, there'll be some tree cutting here with the development of these 3 townhome units, or 3 townhomes, 6 units. But we're doing a tree survey and then putting back a very robust planning plan all along this multi-use path.
Okay.
So
thank
that will
you.
be something we'll discuss further with the planning
The
board.
planning board.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ingles. I know, I don't know if you're the person to ask the question to, but I know during the initial meeting, and I know there was some dispute as to traffic and the intensity of traffic that would be generated from the site with the number of townhomes. Obviously, there's less townhomes, so that would reduce the amount of traffic that would be generated from the site. But it appears that the traffic flow has also been changed. Can you describe how that would impact overall traffic patterns coming out onto Balltown Road?
Sure. Originally, we had the entrance from Balltown coming in the middle of the units. Now we've moved it down directly opposed to the intersection with Barcelona. So that's a much more productive way in terms of being able to, in terms of turning movements and being able to see what the opposing traffic's doing. So we think this is a safer, more efficient exit. But that's also split with Van Antwerp. So traffic can also decide to go out Van Antwerp if they don't want to come out Balltown Road, which I think some people would probably prefer to go to the less traffic route, potentially, until they get to the light at Balltown again. About a 30% is a direct correlation to the number of units. So if we reduce the units by 30%, we will reduce the proposed traffic or the ultimate traffic generation by 30%. And it was pretty, we have a memo here from VHB, the traffic engineer, that was in October of 2021. They actually compared it to the single-family home conventional subdivision and showed that the townhouses were substantially less traffic. So we would be compounding even less traffic again. And for example, in the AM peak in the morning between, say 7 and 8 a.m., whenever the peak is on Balltown, there would only be 7 cars that would actually be entering and exiting the subdivision in the morning. So, and that would be split again 3 or 4 between the 2 entrances.
And what's the reason why a townhouse generates less traffic than a single-family home?
Uh,
Because there's less.
I think the
occupants?
thinking is, traditional homes, bigger homes would be bigger families, potentially a second car, third car, kids, more kids.
Okay. Is there anybody else on the board that has questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Good evening, gentlemen. We're talking about Balltown Road. And you just stated that there was going to be 30% less traffic. Did I hear that right?
There were 30% less traffic, not on Balltown Road, 30% less traffic being produced or proposed for the development.
Then because the number of units are going to be reduced from the original proposed amount down to 14. That's why.
Okay, that's my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
All right.
We would like to reduce the traffic on Balltown by 30%, but we're still working on that problem.
Yes,
Okay.
Chairman Hook, I have a few
Yes.
questions. Mr. Ingles, if
Your
you could
names ain't working
talk
right.
just briefly about the way that the traffic now flows through the parcel with the plan that's up on the screen. Are there any attempts to calm the traffic or slow it down? I know there were some previous expressions of concern about people cutting through the property, if you will.
That was something that we had discussed with Laura through some conversations, both at our October meeting, as well as her memo to us and to the board. We haven't finalized the traffic calming yet. We're trying to finish up. We just finished up all of our technical stormwater and water and sewer. So we're open to suggestions and further conversation with Laura and the planning board. Potentially, we had talked about some type of entrance pillars or something that would, maybe let people understand that this is a, residential area here. We could put something in their residential area. Possibly speed humps. We've talked about that before. Something that comes to mind just as we're speaking here is maybe we can even put some kind of stop intersection here. So if you do try to cut through here, you're going to come immediately to a stop sign. I think that's probably would be a better option than the speed humps. Right. Yeah. Right. This is a it's a 24-foot wide paved road, but we're looking to have it as a private road. So it would be plowed and maintained privately from the town.
Okay.
So theoretically, I don't believe the public should be cutting through with vehicles, even though we do have an easement for the multi-use trail.
Okay, so just for my understanding, more than anything, if it's privately plowed, how does that work out with the different properties?
These people would all have to be part of a basic or a standard HOA homeowners association. That homeowners association would also be responsible for maintaining the stormwater parcel. They would be responsible they'd have a budget, a monthly dues where they would pay into the HOA for maintenance of the road. At some point, they might need to repave the road. Likewise, snow plowing, something that the Millers are still working out. Maybe they'll have some other maintenance amenities where they could do the lawns and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question is, you might be able to answer, but maybe someone else on the team. Relative to the memo that came from the revised memo that came from the Conservation Advisory Council, relative to what they stated were their important elements. Can you speak to those elements?
Sure. I believe that was the meeting on the 6th and the revised memo, November 6, 2024. The last page, item 5, has
Correct.
a few items of importance.
Yes, please.
We did address the public walking path through the development, which would be the multi-use path that we're calling, that we showed on the plan. So we did incorporate that. We are providing the open space areas, the two main open space areas, the one larger one over by the Van Antwerp Village, one out also by Balltown. Those will remain as natural areas with some type of deed restriction, so that those would remain preserved. We didn't address any trails within those. Right now, we're just saying that those would be preserved open space areas. That's something that we could talk about further. We are incorporating the shade trees and the street trees along the multi-use path. We are looking to also preserve any of the existing mature trees that can be preserved, namely on Balltown Road, I think is where that would be most appropriate. We have not talked about item C, area designated for community compost for the residents. Not quite sure exactly what that would entail or where we would put that. Something. Okay, something we'll address further with the planning board. This would have private garbage service, and they would wheel their cans to the street, and the garbage truck would take them from the street. And item D, we're not really looking at any substantial lighting other than just pedestrian scale lighting for the homes. So we would be in compliance with the dark skies friendly and consistent with the town center vision.
Thank you. I think that answers my questions.
Are there any other members of the board that have any questions? Having heard no other questions from members of the board, are there any members of the public that wish to be heard for or against this application? Having no members of the public present that wish to be heard on this application, does the board have any discussion on this application or the posture of this matter and what we're doing here this evening? Okay. Having heard no discussion on that, is there anybody on the board who wishes to make a motion to approve this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Dolman?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the application be granted as written. I find that the benefit cannot be achieved by other means. The nature of this property does not allow for another arrangement to significantly and substantially develop the land utilizing other plans that substantially decrease the number of variances. I find that this is not an undesirable change in the neighborhood. Prior to this, the lots in question appeared to be either scrub, swamp, or condemned buildings. The proposed variance is actually a more desirable use than the development of single-family homes that don't require variances. The biggest neighborhood impact of concern is primarily traffic, and the applicant has provided a traffic study to show the minimal impact, as well as done their best to minimize traffic flow. This is absolutely a substantial request. I find that this number of variances, no matter how de minimis each one may or may not be, is de facto a substantial request. And many of these I don't find to be de minimis. I don't find that there is an adverse environmental impact caused by this variance, as indicated by the response of the Conservation Advisory Council, as well as the well thought out stormwater and runoff design. In fact, building single-family homes as the applicant can without variance would actually create a greater environmental impact than the townhouses proposed. And this is absolutely self-created, but that is not determinative. And on the balance, I would move to grant all variances as applied for.
A motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to second this motion, and I'm very happy that the applicant going with 14 townhouses, and I agree with the 14 variances because they are townhouses, that it also goes down to 22 instead of 36. As we know in the past that we looked in at R2 and we don't have townhouses in there, and that's why it's considered a variance in that situation. What I'd like to add is the traffic has been resolved by the applicant, and I think this is gonna help people on Bolton Road to eliminate some of the heavy traffic, and also they eliminated 4 townhouses, which, as the applicant mentioned, that allows to reduce the traffic by 30% from that area. And the townhouses, as the applicant said, they're going to blend in there. The water concern from the public, it's been taken care of, and it looks like the big one for me on this is the green, and we're going to have a lot of green in there, and I think for that area, the sidewalks is going to be nice for everybody to be able to walk on the sidewalks from all the location for the public. So for all these reasons, I'm going to second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. A motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Shickety, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes, and I'd like to add that I commend the team's movement on the project, making a large reduction in the number of variances requested. I too am a fan of green space, and it's important to maintain that where we can. So on the whole, yes.
Mr. Daly? Mr. Daly?
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Mr. Green?
Yes, for the reasons stated, primarily, in my mind, the fact that it seems to me everybody has worked very hard to come up with this subdivision plan for 14 townhouses, which in my humble estimation, much more greatly fits into the character of Niskayuna as we know and love it. Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes, and from my perspective and looking at the various factors, I think in terms of the desirability or undesirability or changing the character of the neighborhood, I think that the project is currently envisioned is consistent with the neighborhood. We're dealing with a parcel that I think the applicant is aware from the first meeting and this meeting is an essential part of the community, and this board takes its obligations seriously with respect to looking for the best possible outcome for the town, and as has been articulated by other members on the board, the current proposal fits in with the character of the community, and has resulted in a very thoughtful design that I'm happy to support. So for that reason, yes. Your variances have been granted unanimously.
Thank you.
Are you going to do anything on seeker?
So as far as seeker for this board, typically area variances specific to 2-family homes are deemed a type 2 action. If this board feels comfortable with the legal advice on that, if I could have a motion to just designate the area variances a type 2 action, and a second and a vote on that, please.
So my understanding here is you're looking for this board to move that with respect to seeker, this is a type 2 action. That's the motion that you're seeking
For the area variance request.
for the all of the area variance requested. So I will move and well, can you articulate what a type 2 action is before we vote on that?
Yes, so a type 2 action, with seeker, there can be a type 1 action, which is going to involve a much more in-depth conversation about the environmental impacts. Then there's unlisted actions, which are neither a type 1 or a type 2. Type 2 action generally means that just by the nature of what is being requested, that there generally speaking is not any serious environmental impacts being requested. There's type 2, there's like designated type 2 that is set forth in the law. area variances, generally speaking, are type 2 actions in that law, but also area variances specific to single family, 2-family, and 3-family homes are on that list as well. So it's already set forth in the law. We're just saying these area variances, because they apply to 2-family homes being townhouses, that they are within that designated list of type 2 actions.
Okay. So as I understand it, based upon the fact that these are townhouses, this would be a type 2 action under seeker. It's recognized as such, as has been articulated by the town attorney in a much more articulate way than myself. And based upon that, I would move that we recognize this as a type 2 action. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Shakedi, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
I appreciate the explanation from council. Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes. That motion has been unanimously approved as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. And as I stated when I first stood up here, this has been a Herculean effort by everyone involved to get to the point where we're at tonight. And I don't know about anybody else, but I, as an attorney that's been doing this for quite a few years and have appeared in front of, I can't tell you how many boards and represent boards, just like your council does. Nobody takes their job more serious than this board right here, as well as your attorney and Laura. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to a good outcome for this project here.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good man, John. You are the best.
Oh, yeah. Move to adjourn.
So
All in
moved.
favor? Aye.
Seconded.
Aye.
And there we go.